If you need a quick, easy way to create your export documents, submit your EEI filings, and stay compliant with export regulations, Shipping Solutions software is the answer. Keep watching for a demo of the software. Learn how to use it to save time, improve accuracy, and stay compliant. And subscribe to this channel for more videos offering practical advice for exporters and importers. Welcome to Shipping Solutions Export Documentation and Compliance Software. Shipping Solutions is the quick and easy way to create accurate export documents, submit customs filings through the U.S. automated export system, and ensure compliance with export regulations. In this video, we'll take a deep dive into Shipping Solutions, going through the software screen by screen, and by the end of this demo, you should understand what Shipping Solutions is, how it works, and how it can help your company. So let's get started. The software is divided into a series of tabs up here. The Easy Start tab is really the core of the software. This is where you prepare your export documents, submit electronic export information through the automated export system, also known as AES, and you can also run some compliance screenings on this tab as well. Before I go more in depth on the Easy Start tab, I'll first touch on the Databases tab. Now there's really two ways you can use the software. The first way is to use Shipping Solutions as a standalone application, in which case you'll populate these databases and pull information from the databases to populate your export documents. The second way is if you have an accounting, order entry, or ERP software, you can integrate that with Shipping Solutions using a Data Exchange Manager or DXM, which you can set up on the Admin tab. This would allow you to pull orders automatically from your accounting or order entry software, so you don't have to rekey the information all over again. But for the purpose of today's demonstration, I'll walk through the first method using Shipping Solutions as a standalone. We do have video tutorials and instructions in our user guide to set up the Data Exchange Manager if that's something that you'll utilize. So let's go through these databases. The first one is the contacts database. This is where you store the names and addresses for your company, any other offices acting as the exporters. You can also store ultimate consignees, which would be whoever you're shipping to. So typically your customers, billing addresses, freight forwarders, and some other types of contacts as well. So this is where you can store that contact information so you won't have to type it out every time, as we'll see a bit later. There's also a products database, so this is where you store all of your product IDs, product descriptions, units of measure, unit price, etc. Because this is designed specifically for exporting, we've included additional fields for the Schedule B or Harmonized System Code, the country of origin, which would come into play if you need to create a certificate of origin, and this whole section here for additional information needed for your EEI filing for the U.S. automated export system. If you do need a State Department license, you can enter the license information on this AES DDTC tab. And if you're creating dangerous goods documents, there is a dangerous goods database as well. So you can click Lookup DG. This actually comes preloaded with all the UN numbers for dangerous goods. So for example, if you were shipping lithium batteries, we could type in lithium and it'll give us all the different lithium compounds and lithium battery classifications. And you can create dangerous goods IATA forms for air transport, as well as IMO forms for inland and ocean transport, and lithium battery declarations. Those are all included in the software. This phrases database is for different phrases, statements, codes, any kind of text that you might want to put on your documents. We've preloaded it with some for you, like these AES exemption codes referring to cases where you don't have to file through AES, a destination control statement, also called an anti-diversion clause, which we recommend putting in some form or another on your invoice. But you can add statements, delete statements, or customize statements, fully customizable to fit your needs, and then you can easily add these to your documents, as we'll see a bit later. Currencies, this is just for keeping an eye on conversion rates if you use other currencies. Payment terms is for storing the billing terms on your invoices. Countries, we just preload all the world's countries with their 2- and 3-digit codes. Carriers and ports is actually the biggest one. So we have IATA codes for air carriers, SCAC codes for inland and ocean carriers, foreign port codes, and US port of export codes. So all of these come preloaded as well, so your carrier or port should most likely already be in this database along with its code. Nice thing about preloading those codes is that those are required for the EEI filings, so that way you won't have to Google those at the last minute or anything. They're already in the software for you. This export codes and license type sections is again pertaining to the EEI filings. So these are the different export code abbreviations and the different license types recognized in the US automated export system. So that's there to help you when you're doing your filings. This package types database is for storing the types of packages that you load your items into as they're being shipped. This would come into play if you're creating a packing list in the software. And then down here we have this shipment log items. So this is pretty interesting. This is where you can store and maintain your compliance checklist. So whatever steps your employees want to follow for every shipment to make sure you're following a consistent procedure and doing everything you need to do. And this is just the generic checklist that we preload in the software. It includes some recommended steps, but you can add steps, delete steps, or customize steps, fully customizable to fit whatever procedure makes sense for your team. And then if we go over to the Easy Start tab, where we're doing everything at the shipment level, so right now we're on shipment number 1852, if we go to the bottom, we can see that the shipment log is recreated here, but now you can go in and sign and date next to each step to verify you're following the steps in your company's compliance procedure. So not only does it help you keep track of things in the day-to-day and make sure you're doing what you need to do, but it can also help you be prepared for an audit if you need to demonstrate due diligence, show that you're making a good faith effort to comply with the regulations. So now let's go through the Easy Start tab and walk through how we actually create our shipments, create our paperwork, file through AES, and run the compliance screenings. So I'm going to create a new shipment. I'll go to the top left and click the New button. It gives us a fresh shipment, 1853. And now if I go to this contact screen, of course everything is blank because we just started from scratch. Now if you needed to, you could manually type in the information, and if this was the first time you're entering this contact into the software, you could then click the green Add Contact to Database button so that it's saved there for next time. But assuming you've already stored it in your contacts database, you would click the yellow Add Contact from Database button. For the exporter, it'll bring us to our exporters database. I can select the one I need, click Add Contact, and it'll just fill in all of that contact information. So that's the general time savings logic of that contacts database is, rather than typing it out every time, you can just pull in the contact information with a couple clicks of your mouse. And not only is that more efficient, but it's also saving you from making typos on your paperwork. And maybe that's all the contacts that we needed for this shipment, so we can click Save, and now that we've entered it once, we won't have to enter it again. The software knows where to add this contact information on all the different documents for which it's needed with the proper formatting. We just have to enter it once and we're good to go. The next step is the product details screen. This is where we enter what products are on the shipment. Again, we can click Add from Database to save time. So this time it'll bring us our products database. If you want to search through the products database, you can use these search fields up here. And if you want to select multiple at once, you can hold down Control while you click. So I'm going to select these 3 products and click Add Selected Products to Shipment. Now we can see our product information got pulled in. I can scroll through the 3 products using these arrows up here. Of course, you will need to enter a sales quantity for each of these. So if I enter a sales quantity and press Tab on my keyboard, it'll multiply the sales quantity by the unit price to calculate the extended price. So we'll just go through, quickly add our sales quantities for each of these 3 products. And just like that, we have our product information entered as well. So we're good to go on the products, so we can click Save and Close. And by the way, I won't be going through all of these data entry screens. The way I think about it is that these first 5, contacts through EEI, are kind of the core screens because that's all the information for your invoice, all the information needed for your EEI filing, and it's most of the data needed for the other documents as well. So once you get through these 5 core screens up here, you would just kind of pick and choose depending on what additional documents you need. So if you needed a packing list, you'd go here. If you need a free trade agreement certificate, you'd go here, etc. And you're never going to have to re-enter information you've already entered on one of the core screens up here. So the next core screen is for carriers and ports. The main reason we've included this is because some of this information is required for the EEI filing. If you're doing an EEI filing, you'll have to indicate the mode of transport of the exporting carrier. In other words, how are the goods leaving the country? The identity of the exporting carrier, which you can pull from the carrier's database. Maybe this time it's just FedEx, so I can select that. The port of export button will bring us to our US ports database. And if it was an ocean shipment, you'd want to indicate the foreign port where it's unloading as well. So now we're ready to create our invoice. So if we go to the invoices screen, up here are fields for a pro forma. This middle section is for the commercial invoice, and this bottom section is information common to both documents. I'm going to skip the pro forma and go right to creating the commercial invoice. We'll enter an invoice date, invoice number. Here are 2 free text fields. You can enter any text that you'd like. You can pull from the phrases database to save time. So for example, maybe I want to put that destination control statement on this document. And for my special instructions, perhaps this is a shipment for a trade show, so I want to put a customs value only statement. Just examples of some of the statements that we preload in the software. Otherwise down here, the remaining information like the order number, PO number, payment terms for the sale. If you're using Incoterms, you can indicate what Incoterms are being used. Here's for freight and handling and insurance, any other miscellaneous fees you might want to break out. Country of destination, state of origin. The invoice currency I have defaulting to US dollars, but you can select any other currency. You can also list it in a second currency alongside the primary currency. So maybe you want to put it in Canadian dollars as well. I could select that, and if I press tab on my keyboard, it'll pop up with this box where we can enter the current exchange rate so that the price shows up in the correct value in both currencies. And then finally, you can upload electronic signatures and company logos into the software. So I've selected my electronic signature. If you'd prefer to handwrite your signature, you can always select no signature, and that'll leave it blank so you can handwrite it. So that's all we had to do to finish off the invoice, so we'll save and close. Then we'll head over to the Preview Print Email menu, select Commercial Invoice, and click Preview. So you can always preview your documents before you print them or email them. But here's the invoice that we just created. We've got our contacts on the left, invoice details on the right, our product table in the middle here. Those 2 phrases I added show up in this space here, freight and handling fees, total cost, Incoterms, and then I have my electronic signature down here and my company logo up here. But of course, if you were using the software yourself, you could use your own signature and your own logo. And the place where you would upload those is on the admin tab, the signatures and logos section. Basically, you're just uploading a little image of the company logo or the employee signature, and you can upload as many as you need. Also worth mentioning that you can customize the documents on the Tools tab. So for example, on the commercial invoice, you can adjust the date format, number of digits displayed in the Schedule B codes, whether to display the Schedule B codes at all. You can even alter field labels. So for example, the default field was called Exporter, but I chose to customize that and call it Seller instead. So that's why it shows up as Seller when I preview or print my document. So it is quite flexible. You can tweak the documents as needed. Also from the Preview Print Email menu, of course, you can print. You can save documents as PDFs and combine up to 5 into a single PDF. You can also email them either to email addresses associated with the contacts on the shipment, which will then show up in this drop-down menu here, or you can type or paste the email addresses you'd like to send them to down here. And here's the whole list of all the documents you can create using Shipping Solutions. There's over 24 standard export forms. Of course, you might not be using all of these, and some of them are like different versions of the same form. So if you'd like, you can click the filter button, deselect all, and select only what you need. So maybe in your day-to-day, you just need a generic certificate of origin, commercial invoice, maybe a packing list and a USMCA form, I could select those, click Save and Close, and then only those ones will show up in this list here. Just a way to make it easier to navigate. But for now, I'll leave everything selected so we can see everything that's there. Now the final core screen is the EEI, or Electronic Export Information screen. This is just the remaining information needed to submit a customs filing through the US Automated Export System. So if you're doing the EEI filing, you'd enter a shipment reference number, the date of export, the state of origin. You would check any of these boxes if they apply. This is the email address you'd like the response to be sent to after you submit your filing. And the AES ITN field is for storing your ITN, which is your internal transaction number. That's like your confirmation code that acts as your proof that your filing was accepted. Otherwise, if you're claiming exemption from filing, this is where you'd put your exemption statement. So for example, if we were shipping to Canada and we didn't require a license, we could claim the Canada exemption and put that exemption code here. So if customs asks us why we didn't file, we can document which exemption we claimed. But assuming you did need to file, this would be blank, and then the next step would be to save and close and head over to this AES screen. This is where you can actually do the AES filing in the software very quickly and easily. It'll walk you through the 7 steps to do it in these blue boxes on the left-hand side of the screen. The first step is just to review and correct any missing items. So over here is listing our missing items. It's telling me I still need to go back to the contact screen and fill out these 4 pieces of data before I can proceed. Once you've entered all the required data, we'd be ready to click the Login tab and log into the ACE portal. So if you click the Login tab, it'll bring you to the ACE portal. This is the same web portal that you would access on the US Customs and Border Protection website. It's just that it's been embedded into our software and kind of hooked up in the background. So the real cool thing about this is if you were to proceed past this point, you would see that your whole filing would be automatically populated for you already. And the way it gets populated is just by pulling data from these 5 screens, which you already went through to prepare our documents. So it shares data between your filing and your paperwork, keeps everything consistent, and really cuts down the time it takes to process the filing. Now, a few other things I'll point out on the Easy Start tab. We have this electronic certificate of origin portal here. This is a result of a partnership with the American World Trade Chamber of Commerce. They are a Chamber of Commerce registered with the International Chamber of Commerce, and this allows you to get certificates of origin or other documents chamber stamped by the American World Trade Chamber, and typically the turnaround is only a day or 2. We also have this feature available on our website as a standalone. It's free to register, and then you just pay a fee per document that you get certified. This parcel shipping feature, if you use UPS WorldShip or FedEx Ship Manager, this is our integration with those applications. There is some setup required, but once you set it up, you just check this box to send your information over to UPS WorldShip, or check this box to send it over to FedEx Ship Manager, just the data that'll be used to print out the shipping label so that you won't have to retype it all over again. So that can save you time as well if you're using UPS or FedEx. And then the last big thing on the Easy Start tab is the compliance module. So this is a suite of 3 compliance screening tools. There's a restricted party screening, export license determination, and document determination. So if we wanted to do restricted party screening, we just select it, click Run Compliance. This will screen the contacts on the shipment against over 140 denied party lists, including all the lists published by the US federal government, as well as many lists published by other governments and international organizations. So it's going to give us any matches. So there's no match found for our first couple contacts, but for our billing address, we did get some matches. Of course, 100% match means it's an exact match. In this case, we got some 83% matches. And at that point, it becomes important for the user to compare what they've entered to what matched and make a good faith effort to comply based on that. So like in this case, Dynamy matched to Dynox. Well, the first few letters are the same, but otherwise it's different, and it's a totally different country, Netherlands versus Japan. So maybe we can rule it out as a match. Or maybe at another level, we see that this is a French list. Maybe we're only concerning ourselves with the US list, so we can rule it out as an issue as well. I think the key with denied party screening is to document the screening and document the logic behind how you reach your decision. So that's why you can print the results, There is also an audit trail, and the audit trail stores a history of all the compliance screenings you've run for this shipment. You can go back and view the results, print them out again at any time. The next tool is the license determination tool. So this will screen the product classifications and the destination country to help you figure out if you need an export license. This would more so come into play if your items have ECCN classifications or USML categories. So it's breaking it down per product on the shipment. So this first product had an ECCN 5A001, and in this case it's going to break down the reasons for control at both the country level and the ECCN level, as well as the license exceptions for both the country and the ECCN as well. So the way you interpret this is if there's matches between these two categories, you know that there's a reason for control that applies to the shipment. So like in this example, NS1 shows up in both categories. So that means that this is controlled for National Security Criteria 1. Now, if we do make that determination, the default assumption is that you would need to apply for an export license, but you do want to check the license exceptions as well. In this case, STA is in both categories, so that means if we meet the requirements for STA, we can claim that STA exception and not have to apply for a license, even though there was a national security concern matching in these two categories. So that's the basic rundown of how to interpret these results. We do have a series of articles on our website which walk through this process as well. This second product was EAR 99, which is a designation you would give to anything that's under Commerce Department jurisdiction but does not have a specific ECCN. And in that case, it'll say none for ECCN reasons for control, and thus it'll say no license required for the ECCN. So that's pretty straightforward. And then this third example, this one was a USML category. So we see it successfully flagged that we need to apply for a license from the US State Department under the International Traffic in Arms regulations. So those are the three scenarios. This would also come into play, I guess, if you're shipping to an embargoed country, it would also flag that you need a license for that as well. The final tool is the document determination. So this will help you figure out what paperwork you need to provide. It's not meant to be hard and fast rules. It's more meant to be guidelines as to which documents you may need, and then it gives you some notes to help figure out the context and how you would fulfill that requirement and where it fits into the process. And it'll break it down into a few categories. So the first category is the export documents, which are the documents you would need for the country of export or for the mode of transport of the exporting carrier. So these are the export documents here. It's flagged an air waybill because our mode of transport is air. However, the responsible party is typically the importer or the carrier, so it actually flags what your partners are responsible for as well. Commercial invoice will always be flagged. Confirmation of insurance, but again, that's kind of situational. Like maybe you don't have insurance terms as part of the transaction, so you could ignore that. You just kind of have to read the notes, see if it applies to you. We also have line item documents, which are documents it would detect at the product level based on the product classifications. And then down here is the import documents, which will tell you what documents you need for the country you're shipping to. So in this case, we're shipping to Japan. In other words, we're importing into Japan. So to clear Japanese customs, they require a cargo declaration, a certificate of origin, and an import declaration. And like in this example, it says 3 copies either in Japanese or English are required. So it'd be good to know that you need 3 copies before the shipment arrives and it gets stuck in customs because you haven't met the requirement. So you can even run these screenings at any point in the process. Maybe you're just considering shipping to a new country for the first time and you want to see what documents are required. All you'd have to do is enter the data in blue and you can run these screenings at any point in the process. And just like with the restricted party screening, the other screenings get stored in the audit trail as well, so you can document your screenings and go back and view previous results whenever you need to. There's also a copy feature here, so if you find yourself doing repeat shipments, like maybe you're shipping the same thing to the same customer once a week, you can just copy the current shipment and then change just what needs to be changed. So that can save you time over starting from scratch every time. On the Utilities tab, you can generate some different types of reports and print out some basic shipping labels. Tools tab, main thing here is customizing the documents. You can also lock or unlock shipments, delete shipments, back up your database. This is also where you can do a bulk upload into the contacts or products databases. If you can get it into a delimited text file format, you can upload hundreds or even thousands of contacts or products into the databases at once without having to re-enter them each time. And then the admin tab, this is where you do administrative things like set up user groups, user profiles, upload your signatures and logos. We also have this global settings here where you can change default settings. For example, if you go to new shipment defaults, you can enter your company information for the exporter so that you don't have to enter that manually every time. You can also enter, for example, defaults on your invoice so that you will always have the same template each time you're creating an invoice. So you can kind of set these defaults here, so that can save you time as well. And then on the main menu, we have our phone number, email address. Quite easy to get in touch with us if you need help, if you have any tech support questions. And then we just post this link to our support page where we have all of our user guides and video tutorials available on our website. Those are a great resource if you need to review and look at certain features in more detail. And that's Shipping Solutions in a nutshell. Now that we've completed our tour, I hope you have a better understanding of our software. Please visit our website, shippingsolutions.com, for more information or give us a call. We look forward to working with you.
Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, we'd appreciate it if you'd like it and share it, and subscribe to our channel for more videos sharing real practical advice for exporters and importers. You'll also find hundreds of articles about every aspect of exporting at shippingsolutions.com/blog. Check below for a link.